All right, so here's the deal. The rules of online coaching just completely flipped on their head. And so it kind of feels right now like, I'm late to the game and it's a little confusing and overwhelming. But actually, you have a huge opportunity to get in on the early end of a new creator era. So if you understand this change, which you will in this video, then you can thrive in the next era of the creator economy. And I know this because I made the shift last year and I grew my business from 6 to 7 figures in a way that actually increased my freedom and my ability to design more of the lifestyle I want. But just to be clear right off the bat, I am not into the hustle culture, kind of yelling guru vibes. What I care about is creating a system that works and a format where you can really be yourself. See, the rules of online coaching just changed because of two things. Trust is at an all-time low, and then ad costs are at an all-time high. So the strategies that used to work are either completely dead or they're slowly destroying your time and energy. And you know what I'm talking about if you've been let down by these marketing funnels, these launches that kind of build up your anticipation. You know, you're waiting for that open cart day. You're like, oh, this is gonna be great. And then almost no response. Or you know what I'm talking about if you've booked a bunch of one-on-one clients and then you lost all your freedom because your calendar's packed every week. So specifically, there's 3 strategies that coaches and creators leaned on for years that have been completely obliterated in the last 18 months. Funnels, sales calls, and one-on-one coaching. So first, funnels. You've got webinars, email sequences, VSLs. They're officially on life support. People are just tired. They don't want to be dragged through all these steps. It's building up just to be sold some like secret that's on the other end of a paywall. People actually need to trust you now. And if they trust you, they'll want to work with you. And even if your funnels do work, now you're talking about sales calls. And the best case scenario is you're stuck on Zoom calls 20 hours a week till your brain melts. Plus, sales calls tend to attract low quality clients because the high quality ones, they don't want to jump on calls. They observe first, they watch quietly in the background, and they decide before they ever talk to you. Just think about it. Last time you bought something high ticket, you probably didn't jump on a call with a stranger. You just followed them for a while, scrolled their page, maybe even sent it to a couple of friends. You're like, hey, this person's great. And then you decided to work with them on your own. Third strategy that's been exposed, scaling with one-on-one coaching. I've done one-on-one coaching for over a decade. Like I see the value, but you know that if you're trying to scale, you get capped at some point, both your calendar and your energy. So you can't put your time into the things you love, like creating and really helping people if you just feel burnt out and overly busy. So here's the deal. I used to do all 3 of these things and I got completely fed up. I remember one week specifically, it was like back-to-back Zoom calls every single day. And then I just hit that point where I remember clicking leave meeting and I kind of sat back in my chair. I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is not what I started a business to have. I built this business to have freedom. Why does this feel like the job that I fought so hard to leave? So last year, I switched to a new approach that I'm gonna talk about in this video. It worked so well. In fact, me and Robin on my team, we kept texting back and forth all these gifts, like it's working. It felt like it was clicking and it was so clean. And I remember the moment I woke up and checked my phone and saw 2 messages, people I've never talked to, who said, I've been binging your videos. I want to sign up and work with you. Like, where do I sign? And so this is the point, is we're building trust on autopilot in a way that is patient and waits until the client's ready to work with us. There was no pitch, no sales call, especially no chasing them. And so I'm gonna show you exactly what I did, because when I made this one shift to what's called the trust cycle, I could feel it. I went from trading my time for money and feeling stretched and thin at the end of every month to now a $1 million business with, get this, a 50% profit margin. And that's the difference. This is the thing you probably hear gurus shouting about, the money they're making, but they don't tell you that they're spending it all on these funnels that don't work. The important thing here is this. I'm gonna show you a system that works while I sleep. I wake up every morning knowing exactly where to focus. And then I get to work with clients I really enjoy working with and finally have that freedom to really design the life and the work life that I want. But I know this whole online space is kind of weird to me. Like, you don't know if I'm real, you don't know if I'm legit. So here's a bit of my story. So I grew up in Michigan and I went to the University of Michigan for engineering, graduated in 2008, got my first job. I was working with Ziploc. You probably heard of Ziploc bags, SC Johnson, a family company. And it was a great job. I actually have some patents to my name. It was really fun. I had a couple other roles. I move on to this high-tech startup and we're doing really interesting projects. It's like some top secret type stuff, defense projects, but the company was super toxic. It was actually run by this guy who was literally a mad scientist. And so it was eating away at all of us. Their turnover rate actually was 100% the year I was there. It was that bad. And it was starting to affect my health, my new marriage at the time. I remember this one day, CEO got really worked up like he always did, and he chucked a chair across the room. And that was the moment I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm done with this. I was talking to my wife. She was like, what about that company that had great culture called Capital One? And I was like, nah, engineers don't go work at a bank. But I eventually listened to her and I took a job at Capital One. So I was there for about 7 years, from 2010 to 2017. And I got to do some really cool stuff. Toward the end of my time there, I got to build a team to do culture transformation. And this is where I learned about coaching. I met some people who are coaches and they said, oh, Steve, you need to do this. You'd be really good at it. They saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. But I was like, nah, I'm not a therapist. No thanks. Like, I'm more entrepreneur. And they kept pushing on me until finally I agreed. I went to get my ICF coaching degree. And they were right. Like, this is the thing I'm meant to do. And at the same time, working on culture stuff, I saw that coaching really worked because there's something about like it meets people where they're at and helps them find the solution for them. And so I just fell in love with it. So I decided to leave cushy corporate world, start a business in 2017. It's like I had a new mortgage, I had a new baby, my wife had just stopped working. It made no sense on paper, but we went for it, and through a series of a lot of difficult conversations, decided to give it a try. So I started Greenhouse Coaching. We were at the local startup incubator in town, and it was really fun. And we had started to book a lot of clients. We were doing good revenue, like 10 to 20K a month, doing leadership development and career coaching. And then the COVID pandemic hit. So right when it felt like I was starting to get some semblance of growth and stability, we lost 85% of our revenue like overnight when companies closed their doors. So it was really tough time. Somehow we survived as a fairly new young business. On the other end, we started growing and things were really fun. We were doing really well. On the outside, it looked like total success. We had an awesome team that was really fun to work with. We had helped over 1,000 clients at that point, including CEOs, Fortune 500 executives. And then even our customer success, we had 95% of our clients gave us rave reviews. So it's like everything looked great on the outside. But behind the scenes, what I can tell you is I was not feeling like I was loving this business. My calendar was packed. Profit margins were really tight. And I just remember thinking some nights like, this is not what I signed up for. I don't even like what I built. I signed up for freedom and the scale that would give me space to create, but my time's completely tapped out. So from day one, I knew I wanted to scale online, but it was kind of iterating through trying different versions of that: membership, site, digital courses, different funnels. And this last year, it finally clicked. So what I learned is what so many of us have felt, that you can only scale a lifestyle business so far, and then your time is tapped out. So if you want real freedom, I've just found that you need a system that's more efficient with your leads, that scales your time instead of one-on-one coaching. And I finally found that system and I'm thriving in it and I love it. So this video is part 1 in a series of 5 videos where I break down how the trust cycle really unlocked my dream business, the thing I've been trying to build towards. And so if you want this whole series, go to the description, grab the link. That way all of these get to your inbox. Let's dive in. There's basically 2 ways you can book high ticket clients. One is sales calls and the other is content. Now you can grow with sales. It does work. The thing is, it just takes a whole bunch of time and all the headaches that we already talked about. So I'm a big fan of scaling with content. But what doesn't work with content is if you try to scale without trust. So that's the whole idea we're talking about here. Now, sales calls, what works about it is it's essentially like a bunch of coffee shop meetings. And so when you have a meeting at a coffee shop, you're telling stories, you're laughing, you're getting to know each other. You see that the person's real, I mean, I don't know, maybe they're an AI, but you can kind of see they're real. So it works, but then when you try to scale online, you have these problems. One is you have to create high pressure. You also have a bunch of no-shows. If you've tried sales calls, you know how this feels. And like we talked about, it's a time suck. So I like content instead because it is fun and helpful. You get to have a lot of creative time, which is probably more your vibe, and it can scale. And so the idea is it becomes like having 1,000 coffee meetings a day if you do it right. If you don't do it right, then you're skipping that part of connecting with the other person. So let's look at a couple other angles of this. First of all, sales, it's kind of soul sucking, because if you've done it, you know that you are packing out your calendar. It's going to look like this. And if you're just starting out with a typical funnel approach, get ready. This is what it's going to feel like. So there's no freedom and there's no space to create. The other problem with sales is it's just really high pressure. It just doesn't feel good. And that's because you're trying to force people through this funnel, and really they only get like 1 or 2 hours of time with you at best. So instead, what we do is we use a cycle that creates more like 20 plus hours of connection. And we do that through short form and long form content. Now, you probably know that in today's content game, just because you put a post out there doesn't mean all your followers or all your audience sees it. And so this is why we need a system that kind of keeps them in your ecosystem. So this is what we're talking about with the trust cycle. We have a cycle that first finds the right people, not just a huge audience, but a smaller audience of the right people. And you get them spending time with you in your long form content until they're ready to book as your client. And then you help them get the transformation they want, and you share their story, and that feeds back into this virtuous cycle. So we call it a trust cycle because that's exactly what it is. It builds trust. And, not only am I doing this, but like, here's some of my clients who, it's hard to get them all in the shot, but here's some of my current clients that are getting results with this same system. And everyone pictured here has like doubled, tripled, or even quadrupled their business with this system. But the thing I wanted to point out is actually this. Look at this. So like Craig here has got 54,000 followers. Benedict has only got 85, and everyone is in somewhere in between that. So it kind of it makes the point here. You don't have to have a huge audience. In fact, when Craig came to me, he was saying, dude, I'm tired of all these funnels because I'm building this big audience, but the conversions are super low and I'm exhausted. So these people are experiencing what I am, which is just the space to breathe and be excited about their business through the trust cycle. All right, so here's a little more of a deep dive into what the trust cycle is. It's got 4 simple steps. It's actually so simple that it's painful. You are building an audience of the right people so that then you can nurture that audience through long form content. And then when they're ready, they purchase your offer and you create social proof through helping them get their transformation. So the mechanism for each of these steps is what's key. When we're building our audience, we do that with one core ad. And this is how we can make sure we get the right people in our audience. Then with long form, we use our core video, which is, you're watching my core video right now. And so you start with one video and then you create a series like this that allows people to binge and spend time with you, get to know your vibe, get to know your system, your approach, and just form like a bond where they actually know, like, and trust you. They want to work with you. So then you come down here and your core offer is where they purchase. After they purchase, like I said, you share the social proof through something called the core story, and that completes the loop where it feeds back into your building your audience, because stories of transformation are the best possible marketing out there. So this whole thing is powered by CTAs. Maybe you've felt this in content where you make a piece of content and you're trying to call people to the next step, but you don't know what you should say, or your CTAs are always flipping and changing, and so people get confused. So the beauty of the trust cycle is these things are on autopilot. They're always the same. When people are in your short form audience, you have one simple CTA to comment, a trigger word that gets them to your long form on YouTube. When they're over there, you always have a consistent CTA to DM you, another trigger word that gets them to your core offer. Then, once they sign up, you're actually just helping them get the transformation and grow, so that once you can collect and share their story, the CTA is to follow you, and now you're building your audience again. All right, so let's dive into these one by one. Now, the core ad, there's a few reasons this works. So first of all, if you run cold ads, then you tend to get a lot of spam accounts and you build the wrong audience. And this is like Craig I was mentioning earlier. He had built up this huge audience, but a lot of them were the wrong people. Now your engagement rate is low. You feel discouraged because you're not getting a lot of traction. So instead, with a core ad, we're getting to the right people. Also, if you're only doing organic content, you feel like you're just waiting to go viral one day and hoping that something will pop. So with the core ad, the beauty is you have way more control. You're running a paid ad to the right people, and you can control money in equals clients out. The third thing is, instead of limited content views, now people see all your content. What I mean by this is, just because you post something doesn't mean all your followers, all your subscribers see it. And so you need a system that actually gets your content to them. And we use something that's a very cheap retargeting ad to make sure all of our followers see all of our content. And then finally, instead of a confused algorithm, you actually train it to work for you because you're giving it the right inputs. So the core ad is a beautiful thing that starts to build your audience with the right people. Now, as you move those people to your long form, because they can't spend enough time with you on short form. They can't get to know you. They can't see your methodology and see your results. So we want to get them over to long form, typically YouTube or a podcast. Now, over here, instead of just that short form or even like a VSL or a typical webinar, you can now build trust at scale because you don't have to put so much of your time into it. Also, like we talked about, instead of high pressure, it's just a natural relationship build. This is what people are used to. Not only is YouTube where people go to learn and spend time watching long form, it's also a natural search engine. And the way AI is headed, it's going to use things like YouTube more and more to deliver up search results. The other thing is, instead of paying this like gated content or like low ticket items that start to build the trust, we actually get to do it for free because we're just giving people videos on YouTube. And then, like we talked about before, instead of this one and done funnel where it's like you drop them on a landing page, they have to watch it right then, which most people don't, and they have to be ready to book right now or else it goes away. Instead, with the trust cycle, they stay in your ecosystem. Sometimes it takes months or even years for people to warm up and be ready to purchase, and this system solves for that. Then the core offer, what's great about this is instead of confusing and changing offers, it's just one simple, clear offer. And so what it does is, I'll show you this in a couple of videos, but it offers the same transformation at different levels of Zoom so that you can meet them where they're at in the way that they want to interact with you. But it's not confusing. You're not offering a whole bunch of different things. It's just one clear offer. So now, instead of limited help, you can actually deliver the same transformation in those different modes. And this helps people get off, who are on the fence. It helps them to get off the fence and join, because it's a really irresistible offer that's not just here's a course or here's some coaching, but it's all the elements of what they want. And you'll see that in my third video. Finally, you may have heard this. I love this. Instead of selling features, you're selling futures. And so the core offer really focuses on that dream outcome that they want instead of trying to sell your coaching, which no one cares about our coaching. They want the problem solved in their life. All right, and then finally, the core story. Yeah, as we're working with people in this scalable model, which I call the freedom delivery model, now, instead of trading our time for money, it's actually scalable. We can help a whole bunch of people at the same time, but we don't lose the quality. And so if you've ever done DIY offers, you know that people's results just go through the floor because it's dependent on their own motivation. There's no community, and there's definitely not enough interaction with you as the coach and the guide. So in this model, people get great results and they have a community. Now this helps you stand out. So instead of just another coach, you've got proof and you've got the momentum of a group of people working together. And so you avoid all these crazy fake claims and you actually have compelling street cred. So what does this look like when you're trying to build? There's a few stages of business, and it's important to understand how this stuff fits in. Sometimes people jump too quickly to trying to scale online, and it doesn't work because they don't have enough proof and cred yet from working with people. Vice versa, if you're only working with people one-on-one and in person, then you can't scale beyond your time. So this is the 4 stages of business that you need to understand. Stage 0 is kind of 0 to 1,000 a month revenue. And important to note, I've noticed a lot of creators say things like 1,000 a month, and what they mean is I had a month where I hit $1,000. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about consistent recurring revenue. So once you consistently are getting 1,000 a month, now you're moving from just getting clarity to actually getting clients. That stage 1 is like 1 to 10,000 a month. And this is about, hand to hand, getting clients individually, working with them and getting them results. Now you have the social proof to be able to go to stage 2, which is like 10 to 30K a month, where you can scale through your content. And this is where people rush to this stage and then wonder why it's not working. And then beyond that, kind of 30K to 100K a month and beyond, that's when it's all about control. You're building systems and you're replicating yourself and, allowing things in your business to scale with the growth. So if you want, you can skip past this section, but if you need to see the details of what it looks like, here's essentially what each stage entails. So in stage 1, you're really like getting your skills and certifications. Hopefully you've already had that done, but if not, this is where you want to get it done. In stage 0, you're doing market research to really understand the pain points of your core client so that your messaging will resonate. And then you're developing your method through trial and error so that you have a unique proprietary way of doing what you do. So sometimes coaches during this stage need to be, they're self-funding, they have savings or some way to fund it themselves, or they need to get a side job or like coaching gigs on a platform just to kind of pave the way while they're building all this stuff. So during stage 0, you're also establishing your social media accounts, getting your contracts and hosting set up, all the kind of foundational platform stuff. All right, now stage 1, again, this is like 1 to 10,000 a month. This is where we start building our initial clients, where we're going to get them results and use those stories to fuel growth online. So what we talk about in Business Builder is the 6 degrees of separation. It's a very simple way to get quick paying clients without awkward networking and without having to do tons of cold outreach. So 6 degrees of separation quickly gets your first clients and they're paying. We do this through something called your first 5 friends. It's basically a domino effect of starting with 5 people you know, and every week having this cadence where those people introduce you to 5 more, and you eventually kind of find the right people. When you find them, you're doing this coach before the coaching. And it's essentially using the skills you're already great at in order to help those people See what they really want and need, and take the step to join your program. Now, here's the trick that my clients and me have had a lot of success with in this stage, and it's something called beta clients. The quick version is these initial people, you need to start getting proof points and they need to get over the hump. And so what you do is you offer an exchange and you give them a discounted rate in exchange for the sales assets you need, which is basically a testimonial, a Google review, a case study interview, and then a referral to somebody else. So you do this trade and people love it. It's a win-win-win. And then you start getting momentum instead of like waiting until you can get those first clients. So during this stage, usually what your content and everything looks like on the back end is something like 1 to 3 Instagram posts a week, 1 email per week. You're just starting to build up the audience so that when you need to scale, it's not too late. And so usually my clients at this point are starting to do like $25 a day on their core ad to build up the right audience, and then something like $2 a day to boost their organic content up and make sure that their followers see it all. So it's a really cheap way to start getting that initial growth. You might also at this stage want to create your core video and start to get some of those case study interviews from your beta clients. So now you've got the whole thing set up and ready to scale. So the fun part that we all want to hear about is really in this stage 2. This is your 10 to 30K a month. At this point, some coaching businesses, it makes sense to get these corporate clients because this really boosts your revenue quickly. And a lot of times the same thing you offer individuals, you can offer to companies as well. They're willing and ready to pay a lot more for your services. But this is where your core video series, this becomes your main lead generator. So it's growing your email list, it's growing your subscriber list, and it's also starting to get that binge watch time you need with your audience. So we're continuing to do the next 5 every week, coach for the coaching. The one-on-one clients you're working with, you're moving now to a full price, and you're switching to a hybrid group model. This is the key switch that allows you to scale your time. So on the content side, now we're moving up to this. You've got about 3 to 5 Instagram posts per week. You're doing a daily Instagram story to just share about your life so you're really creating a personal brand. And then 1 email a week along with key promotions that are, again, not selling, but inviting people to the next step in the cycle. So at this point, it's a good idea to set up something like ManyChat that can automate these CTAs, getting people from your short form over to your long form and from your long form to your offer. So what we talk about in the Biz Builder Accelerator is how to start scaling your ad spend in a way that doesn't exceed the actual income that you have. So you take a portion of your profits and put them towards the ads. But this time you're doing, let's say, 1 YouTube video a week. You create your email out of that to your email list, and you've got that core offer on autopilot. It's beautiful. Like the whole thing is set up, and now when you go on vacation or when you're sleeping, people can go through all the steps of this cycle on their own. And so one of the keys a lot of entrepreneurs miss is you want to start collecting data at this stage. That might sound like boring or a waste of time, but the data is what gives you the insights to unlock the next level of growth. Because usually there's some bottleneck in what you're doing, and it's hard to pinpoint that without seeing the data. The other benefit is data can now help to serve your clients better as well. You're getting insights that they don't have because you're further along. So you're really honing in who's your target person. We call this your core client. It's like the exact person with the exact situation that you are equipped to help and that you love and enjoy helping. What that does is by niching down, the riches are in the niches. It's like, if you can get more specific, it actually opens things up more. All right, and then the last one, stage 3, this is like 30K and up per month. This is where you might hire a virtual assistant, a content editor. You might start getting like systems and people in place that allow you to scale. And so sometimes it just means taking a good look at your systems. Where is there gaps? What's broken? At this point in time, there's so many opportunities with AI, but it takes time to look at that. And so a key mistake is people think like, I'm good, I've figured it out, and they don't invest in their own mentorship or coaching. This is what starts to separate people from being stuck and plateaued to really getting to the next level, is the people who invest in their own growth. I mean, I've spent over $100,000 in my own coaching and mentorship over the years, and it's always hard at the time, but looking back, absolutely hands down, like that was the best investment in terms of my business growth. So now this frees you up to start offering experiences. Maybe it's in-person meetups, retreats, other kinds of experiences. And you're really doing a lot of testing and refining to improve what you've built. All right, so this whole thing is basically what we call at Greenhouse the roots up approach. It looks at what are the actual kind of daily and weekly rhythms and practices that start to get us to our vision all by itself, because we're aligning what we're doing today with where we want to be tomorrow. And so what we do is something called a growth sprint. And it just says, all right, defining where you're at now, and every 90 days, doing a sprint that gets you to your 90-day vision. And what's really nice here is it gets us focused, because we're all scattered and we kind of have that shiny object syndrome. As entrepreneurs, we're always kind of built in building mode and creating and thinking. And so we need a focused way to say, all right, here's where I'm going for 90 days and get it done. And so what I like to say in the Business Builder Accelerator is I help coaches scale online to their next 20K a month without the soul-sucking overwhelm. We build freedom and we build life-aligned scale with one simple system, the Business Builder Growth Plan. And so you can have a high profit, enjoyable business that gives you purpose and freedom. So if this is you and it's time for you to do that, what you can do is DM me this word grow20 on Instagram. Here's my handle. And it'll automatically, just like the CTAs I showed earlier, it'll automatically send you a Google Doc that walks you through exactly what it looks like to work with me. But we go through, this is the Business Builder Growth Plan. Instead of just hoping that clients show up, this chaotic mess of a system, we have clear, clean 3 things. We nail your niche, we define the path to clients depending on your stage of business, and then we get the simple systems in place so we can focus on what matters most and grow more quickly. So, that way you can have a coaching business, like it says here, that facilitates the life you want. I think we get lost in the business part of it and we forget the whole reason we started it in the first place. So I want you to be able to grow the life you want. And that starts with building their business the right way. So just like, a few of my clients, Stacy, she came in really overwhelmed. She was trying to do all the things and not having traction. And now she's doing 40K a month consistently and really enjoying her business. Teresa, she was stuck and second guessing everything. And now she's at a consistent 12K a month. She's got a lot of clarity and she's going to grow a lot this year. Richard, he rebuilt his whole model and hit 35K months consistently. Or like Christina, who's more in the consulting space. She was overthinking a lot of stuff and she actually just hit her first record 72K month in the Business Builder Accelerator. So if this is the right time for you, then like I said, DM me grow20 on Instagram, get you all the info. All right, like I mentioned, this is a 5-part series. So first thing is, if you're not in the email club, link is in the description. And when you sign up, it'll make sure you get each of these videos the next 5 days in your inbox. It's called an email mini course because each one is like a 2-minute read and then it points you to the next video. But the next one in the series is the Core Ad Engine. And this is all about building an audience of core clients on your social platform, getting the reach, keeping people in the ecosystem so that pipeline is always full. All right, video's right here. Go ahead and check it out. Cheers.